In 1929, deep inside the Topkapı Palace in Istanbul, a Turkish naval officer named Halil Edem stumbled upon something that shouldn't have existed. It was a map, drawn on gazelle skin, dated 1513, and it showed Antarctica. The problem? Antarctica wasn't officially discovered until 1820. So how did a 16th century Ottoman admiral map it, with impossible accuracy, 3 centuries before Europeans even knew it existed? That's the question that shook the academic world. And the answer? May be sitting in a vault underneath Vatican City that no one is allowed to open. The map is called the Piri Reis Map, named after its creator, Admiral Piri Reis, a legendary Ottoman cartographer and naval commander. He created it in 1513, the same year Europe was still debating whether the Earth was round. On the surface, the map looks like a curiosity. It shows the Atlantic Ocean, the coastlines of South America and Africa, and a landmass at the bottom that Piri Reis labeled the Antillia, a mythical island. Except, it's not mythical. When modern geologists overlaid it with satellite data of Antarctica, the match was almost exact. But here's the part that truly disturbs scholars. The map shows Antarctica's coastline without ice. The ice sheet covering Antarctica is estimated to be at least 6,000 years old. The only way someone could have drawn that coastline accurately is if they had access to a map made before the ice formed, or technology we don't believe existed in 1513. So where did Piri Reis get this information? He told us himself. In the margins of the map, he wrote, "I have found the main source, 8 Mappe Mundi, world maps, drawn in the time of Alexander the Great." He wasn't claiming to be a genius. He was claiming to be a copyist. Think about what that means. He was a copyist, which means someone before him made the original, and someone before that person made theirs. We are looking at a chain of copied knowledge stretching back into a time that official history says had no global navigation, no advanced cartography, and no awareness that Antarctica even existed. That chain has to start somewhere, and wherever it starts, that's the civilization nobody wants to talk about. This is where the story gets dark. In 1960, US Air Force Captain Lorenzo Burrows, a cartography expert at the Strategic Air Command, analyzed the Piri Reis map and concluded that its accuracy could only be achieved with aerial surveying technology. He sent a formal letter to Reverend Linham, director of Western Observatory at Boston College, saying the accuracy of the map was beyond any technology known to have existed in 1513. His findings were forwarded to the Vatican. Nothing was published. Now, the Vatican Apostolic Archive contains over 85 kilometers of shelving, documents going back to the 8th century, correspondence between popes and kings, treaties, confessions, records from the tribunals of history. And somewhere in there, according to multiple researchers and historians, are maps. Pre-Christian maps, maps that may have been collected by the Roman Empire, inherited by the Church, and quietly locked away because of what they suggest, that human civilization is far older and far more advanced than the official timeline allows. In 1999, the archives were partially opened to select scholars. The maps section remained restricted. But here's something that rarely gets mentioned. Before the Library of Alexandria was lost, and we'll get to that story in another video, a significant portion of its collection was transferred to Rome. The Roman Empire was systematic about absorbing the intellectual wealth of every civilization it encountered. Egyptian scrolls, Babylonian star charts, Persian astronomical records, all of it moved westward. And when the Roman Empire became the Roman Catholic Church, that institutional inheritance didn't disappear. It changed address. The Vatican didn't build its archive from nothing. It inherited one. And the question of what was already in that collection before any pope ever ordered a single document is one that no historian has been given full access to answer. So, who made the original maps that Piri Reis copied? Professor Charles Hapgood, a historian at Keene State College, spent years studying this question. His conclusion, published in his 1966 book, Maps of the Ancient Sea Kings, was that the source maps came from a civilization that predated ancient Egypt, a seafaring civilization with advanced knowledge of geometry, trigonometry, and global navigation. Albert Einstein wrote the foreword to Hapgood's book. He called the theory by no means absurd. Einstein wrote the foreword. Let that sink in for a moment. Hapgood's theory connects to a broader idea, one that mainstream archaeology has resisted for decades, that sometime around 12,000 years ago, a sophisticated civilization existed and was lost, possibly to a comet impact, possibly to a global flood. The survivors carried fragments of their knowledge into the ancient world. The maps were one of those fragments, and there is growing scientific support for exactly this kind of catastrophe. The Younger Dryas Impact Hypothesis, supported by researchers at universities across multiple continents, proposes that a comet struck the Earth approximately 12,800 years ago, triggering a rapid cooling event, massive wildfires, and the disappearance of dozens of large animal species across 3 continents. The timing matches, the scale of disruption matches, and the complete collapse of any civilization living at that time would match too. What if they saw it coming? What if they had time to encode what they knew, their maps, their astronomy, their mathematics, into formats that could survive the chaos? And what if some of those encoded records ended up eventually in the hands of institutions powerful enough to keep them hidden? Which means the question isn't just how Piri Reis knew what Antarctica looked like. The question is, who explored it when it was still green, and why has every institution with access to the answer chosen silence? Here's what we know for certain. Multiple serious academic requests have been made to the Vatican to access their full cartographic archive. All have been declined or indefinitely delayed. In 2004, a coalition of European historians submitted a formal petition requesting access to pre-medieval maps held in the Vatican collection. The Vatican's response acknowledged the maps existed. Access was denied on the grounds that the materials were too fragile for examination. In 2017, the Vatican digitized portions of its archive. The cartography section was not included. And in 2021, when the archive was briefly opened to a documentary film crew, the section on ancient maps was, again, kept off camera. There's a pattern here that goes beyond institutional caution. Organizations that have nothing to hide don't develop a consistent, multi-decade, multi-administration policy of refusing to show one specific category of documents. That kind of consistency requires deliberate decision-making at the highest levels. Someone, or a succession of someones, has actively chosen again and again to keep those shelves closed. What are they protecting? Maybe nothing. Maybe the maps are mundane. Maybe the fragility excuse is genuine. Or maybe somewhere in those 85 kilometers of shelving, there's a gazelle skin map older than Egypt that shows a world that shouldn't exist. and they made a very deliberate choice about who gets to see it. The Piri Reis Map is real. It's sitting in the Topkapı Palace Museum right now. You can go see it. The accuracy anomalies are real. The Vatican Archive is real. The denied access is real. What you do with that is up to you. If this video made you question something, hit subscribe, because this is exactly the kind of history they didn't teach you in school, and we're just getting started. Drop a comment below. Do you think the Vatican knows something it's not telling us? I read every single one.